Welcome in. This is your Wednesday live chat for this week's Genesis Invitational, brought to you by, yes, indeed, our friends over at Jock Market. That's Stock Market DFS. We'll talk more about them in just a few minutes, but welcome in. Come on in. The water's fine. Let's get those questions, those comments, those concerns into the chat right now, because the next hour, it's your time. Whatever you want to talk about. We could do ownership. We could do pivots. We can do one and done. We can literally do anything that you want. So wherever you go, I will follow. Let's jump into this. Let's see what we can find here in the chat. This gentleman, quite the gentleman, says he's played 46 lineups in 2022 and has 6 of 6s. What is the longest drought of 6 of 6? Or my longest drought? And 2022 was supposed to be my year. Yeah, well, a good question. I don't know the answer to my own personal drought numbers. I will say, when they went from T70 with MDFs down to T65 a couple of years ago, the 6 of 6 rate just got so much smaller. It's like, sub 10% most weeks, right? So if it was 10% every single week, it wouldn't be crazy if you went 9 weeks without a 6 of 6, right? If you were only playing one lineup, for example, or if you had kind of like similar ratings. I don't know what my own personal drought is. I can tell you my personal record drought of one and done money is ongoing. I think it's 5 consecutive missed cuts. Things are going beautifully. I knew that that sweet spot, that hot streak from the fall season was going to have to come to an end at some point. Didn't think it'd come crashing down quite like this. Good afternoon, Rick. Good afternoon, Scott. How is Morikawa overall putting on POA? He did so bad last year, but 20-1 outright for him, knowing he just has to putt okay to get himself in contention is too good to pass up. Sure. Yeah, listen, and I think this was also, this was a really, I can't remember the exact timing of this, but there was, either he switched his putting stroke. He went to the claw grip that he'd worked with Marco Mira with, either right before this event or right after it. So I can't remember if it was the first week he was using it, then he lost 7.5 strokes putting, and then he went on to win the workday, or if it was he lost 7.5, said, I got to do something different and go to the claw grip and then go win the WGC. I don't remember the exact order, but this was kind of a big moment. So, what I've done here is on the Holy Grail. So this is my website, RickRunGood.com, very large golf database designed for your fantasy and betting purposes. Is I've just loaded in the entire field. I've filtered by Poana Greens, and I can just click Colin Morikawa's name, and we can look at his last handful of results. And he doesn't have a whole lot of them, right? I mean, a couple of US Opens, a couple of Genesis, the Farmers. He is, outside of the 7.5 that he lost at the Genesis and the 5.5 he lost at Mexico, otherwise pretty good, right? Putted better at Torrey for the US Open. He gained his first 3 times on the putting surfaces on POA, so it's kind of a mixed bag. A couple of, 2 really bad events would kind of drive his overall average down. When someone says stack AM PM, what does that mean? Any weather updates and leans for Showdown this week? So, it just means playing 6 guys that are going to be teeing off in the morning wave, or 6 guys that are going to be teeing off in the afternoon wave. The idea, you generally see more when there is evidence of weather coming in, whether that is rain on one of the waves or winds kicking up throughout the day, something like that. Or if you see like, oh my gosh, Friday afternoon is going to be like devastatingly windy, let's go with Friday morning guys, which also happens to be Thursday PM guys, because everybody plays the one side of the wave. There's good and bad for this. The bad part of actually trying to guess it is hard, right? I'm not a meteorologist. You're not a meteorologist. And even the meteorologists get it wrong. So if you are trying to time rain or time wind, I believe it's a hair of a fool's errand. But with all that being said, we do often see wave splits, right? Like no matter if the conditions are similar throughout the day, we see wave splits. Last week was a really good example because things either warm up or something happens that we're not considering, and guys in a certain wave tend to do a little bit better. It happens all the time. So that's what people are referring to when they say stacking. Hey, Rick, new to the channel, but enjoying the content so far. Question for you. How would you rank these 6K players? Munoz, Clark, and Gim. So the way that I would probably try to rank multiple golfers against one another would be on the power rankings. And I'll just throw those guys in because you can load in multiple golfers. So we'll say Clark, we'll say Gim, and we'll say Munoz. Do I have Seb in here? Of course I do. Okay. So, you can then do this however you want. Last 50 rounds, Munoz is basically by far the best player out of these groups. Now, if you go a little bit shorter, let's go 20 rounds. That's a bit more recent. Doug Gim becomes the number one player. So I would actually probably prefer this when you're talking about guys in the $6,000 range who are a bit more streaky, a bit more trendy. I'd prefer to go with a smaller number of rounds. And when I see Doug Gim not only gaining about a half a stroke per round, which is the best out of these three, but also doing it in a way mostly via the ball striking, that's pretty exciting. Munoz also doing it via the ball striking, but he's struggled around the greens. The short game hasn't been too sharp. So kind of different ways to get it done for these guys. Wyndham Clark is just reliant on the putter. Hey, Rick, great show. Thank you. Curious how you get the DFS projected ownership numbers. Any favorite low-owned plays for the week? Okay, so I'll go over to the cheat sheet here so you can see this. And I don't remember seeing it as blatantly even near the top of the board as it is projected this week. Literally like 9 guys from 10,700 down to 9,100 are somewhere between like 13 and 15% in projected ownership. Like, it's absolutely crazy. I've never seen anything like this. And it makes sense just with kind of how spread out and how top heavy this field is. How do I get these numbers? I could spend 9 hours describing that to you, or you'll just have to take my word for it that it is a calculation that has evolved over the last 5 years that generally looks at back-tested golf users' choices based on golfers' recent form, history at an event, pricing, where they fall in the pricing compared to similarly skilled golfers. It is just a calculation that has evolved and is constantly evolving. It's a living, breathing creature to end up getting us to what the projected ownership is. What's up, Rick? What's up, DJ? Did you do your homework on Cam Young over the week? He popped in your model and ranks high in strokes gained off the tee. He does. Yeah. So we can do a little bit of a Cam Young deep dive here. And again, I don't have a ton of rounds on him, right? Only 118 rounds in his career. Not all of them are measured rounds, but what you'll notice is exactly right, DG. Like, off the tee, he's a star. Just a true star. Now, the rest of his game, a bit questionable. I do think that the combination of his two strengths, off the tee and putting, that might be best for Riviera. Might be best for. There's probably a couple other places that would also be beneficial, where you want to be in really good position off the tee and then being able to roll the rock, whether that's 5 feet for par, whether it's 12 feet for birdie. Like, it's handy around a place like Riviera. So yeah, I'm certainly warming on Cam Young, and the skill sets that he does possess in a small sample size are very, very impressive. Sid says, am I missing a reason why Paul Casey seems so slept on? Seems like a great fit, and I see him drifting to 80-1 at places. I agree with you. Yeah, I think Paul Casey, because he's almost like a light version of Rory McIlroy in terms of sentiment, which means he's only played, he's played exclusively on the European tour for the last 4 starts, or the Asian tour, I guess, if you count his Saudi international start as well. But he's played well. 9th in Dubai for the DP World Tour. Then he starts off this year with a T12 and a T24. And you're right. The general rule of thumb for Paul Casey is ball striking. It's off the tee, it's approach, it's total driving, it's things like that. So yeah, no, I think he'll be fine this week. I think 80-1 is very long, but let's remember, he's not really a prolific winner, right? He won Valspar twice. Was it Valspar? I always confuse Valspar with the other one. No, it was Valspar. Yeah, he's won Valspar twice. He's won Houston in 2009. That was 13 years ago. A couple of European Tour wins, one a lot more recently at the start of 2021. But like, he's not like a prolific winner. Do I see him finishing in the top 10 here? Would that shock me at all? Absolutely not. But he's not really a prolific winner. Another question about Paul Casey, so I'm gonna skip that one. Oh, there was a couple questions about CT Pan, so I'll do that one as well. I'll try to cover my bases here right out of the gate and try to get as many of these as possible. So here's the CT Pan deep dive, and when you look at the results, I start to get quite worried. 4 straight events he has lost strokes on approach. 4 straight he has lost tee to green. 3 of them he has lost with the putter. That's a horrible combination. It's a horrible combination. Does he played at Riviera before? Like, I don't even know why this would drive a question about CT Pan. T20 last year. I guess that's really it. I don't know what the argument for CT Pan would be at the moment. He's just he's really struggling. I don't like this stat line at all. I don't like that profile one single bit. And sorry, I meant to change the question there. There you go. It was this one. CT Pan. Oliver says, hey, Rick, thank you for creating the most powerful golf DFS research database that exists on the internet. I swear that's not my mom. That's Oliver. Thank you, Oliver. That's much appreciated. Looking at Poston's profile, he has 2 different color bars for bent and POA. Please explain. I know the answer to that, and I will fix it. It is because at some point in the official PGA Tour database, he went from JT Poston with J period T period Poston to I think just JT without the periods, and that screws up those bars there. I'll fix it. I'll push an update and like when I get off air, it'll be fine. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for telling me that. Having another set of eyes on this stuff, like it's, we're a 2-person team here, myself and my wife. I do all the data stuff. Having another set of eyes is very helpful. So if you see something like that, don't be afraid to shout it out. Oh, okay. This is probably going to come up a lot. So, is Matty Fitz's stomach bug something to worry about? Would you pivot to Kokrak or Henley? So, just for those who are uninitiated, and this is probably one of those things we should just plug our ears and not even care about. Daniel Rappaport from Golf Digest had reported that Fitzpatrick did withdraw from the Wednesday Pro-Am, and he was it's a non-COVID related illness, a stomach bug, and he is hopeful to play this week. Now, you can interpret that any number of ways. I don't have any more information besides that. If you are getting a little bit queasy, get it, stomach bug, queasy of playing Matt Fitzpatrick, I think the logical pivot is Adam Scott, who is at a very close projected ownership, and he's $100 more expensive, and he won this event. He's won this event twice. If you don't have the 100 to spare, Henley's fine. I could get behind that. Neiman is kind of interesting at 10.5%, just because of the good play at Farmers, and I just know that upside is in there. So I don't feel the need to pivot, but I get it. Some people don't want to have to deal with that. So Bernie or Guillotine with a super chat, which is never required, always appreciated, is asking a question about Abraham Answer in the PrizePicks line now that it's moved to 3.5. Any other 3.5s? What was it before, Bernie? 4 or 3? I'm assuming it was birdies and it went from 3 to 3.5, right? That was the one. Yeah, so I mentioned this a couple of times throughout the week. There is a fairly strong case to be made that there's going to be more birdies than you would expect to make this week in relation to what the scoring average is actually going to be. You're going to have a lot of birdies that are offset by bogeys and doubles and things like that. So that's kind of the idea that we're getting at here. The Sung Jae, I don't know what Sung Jae's number is at the moment. I'm going to try to pull this up real quick for you, Bernie, and see. Okay, so I'm showing, I think this is what we're referring to. I'm showing Answer 3.5 birdies for round 1, up from 3. I still have the over on that at like 72%, right? And that's using a longer term range of, last 50 rounds. Other 3.5s, let's see who else is 3.5. Spieth is kind of weird. He's had like 2 rounds where he's made a ton of birdies here. Otherwise, he hasn't. Let's see. Finau and Sungjae. Finau, because really 3.5 birdies, the path of you getting there is taking apart the par 5s, and then finding one more birdie. So him and Sungjae could both do that. Those are probably the ones that I lean the most on. If you're not playing on PrizePicks, highly encourage you to do so. It's been an absolute blast. If you use my code Rick, and there is a link in the description, that'll get you a 100% instant deposit bonus up to $100. So let me pick up my spot here again. Oh, Jay-Z's in the chat. My main man, Slick Rick, he helped yo bankroll grow quick. Okay, it took me a second to put that together. I like that. Thank you, Jay. How about that halftime show last weekend? Yeah, I actually I didn't get to see a lot of it. I had to live. We ran it back and we watched it on YouTube later. I was actually in the midst. This is a horrible story. I was in the midst. So I had my pizza dough that I had been proofing for 36 hours. I had made it days in advance. It was all I was thinking about on Super Bowl Sunday, and I made a real rookie move. And I put it in a glass bowl in the fridge. So when I brought it out and I was taking the dough out, I dropped the bowl. I cracked it everywhere. It was destroyed into a million pieces right into my dough that I was just about to use to make my pizza. And I was devastated. So I was in a different frame of mind, Jay. I then had to, really, really reassess what was going on. But I did watch it later, and it was quite entertaining. The question about Keegan Bradley. Let's see what we got with Keegan this week. The total driving aspect, right? That's Keegan's thing. Be long and straight off the tee, hit your wedges well, hit your irons well. He's gained strokes on approach in basically all but one event for, oh my God, a year and a half, dating back to August of 2020. He was a small loser at the Memorial, but it was minus 0.11 stroke per round, in total. I'll give him credit for that. I was hoping, we had started to see a little bit of gains from Keegan with the putter from basically the API to the Memorial, and he's kind of lost that a little bit. But, if you still think that's in there, Jay-Z, the rest of his game looks absolutely sharp. Let me take a couple of seconds here and talk about Jock Market. So Jock Market is Stock Market DFS. They present this live show. They've been a great partner for, over a year and a half, probably at this point. And it is, it's Stock Market DFS. And I know it seems confusing at first. I know it can be, feel like a little bit of a barrier to entry, but join us for the power hour tonight. Wednesday night, there's a power hour, 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. We walk you through everything. Once you get the hang of it, once you're in the market for a few minutes, you start to figure it out. So this is where you can buy, sell, trade, short shares of golfers and other athletes. I think they just added NASCAR as well, so that's coming too. And then there are predetermined payouts. So if your golfer finishes first, he gets the full 25-cent or $25 a share payout. That's what Scotty Scheffler did last week. So last Wednesday, Scotty Scheffler sold for $7.34 a share, paid out the full $25 a share. So that's awesome. There was a time on, I think it was Friday, when there was an ask on Sahith Tagala for $11.90, something like that, meaning you could have bought him at $11.90. I think it was actually going into Sunday because I think there was only 18 holes left, and he still paid out $15 a share. So you could have still made a profit even if you got on Tagala late. So it's just a really interesting game once you get the hang of it. I love it. If you use the code Rick, it is a 50. Actually, I think it's still 50. They did 100 for the Super Bowl. If you use Rick, try it. It might be up to $100 deposit match. Otherwise, it's 50. Whatever it is, it'll still be the best one available. I don't know if they stopped the promo for the Super Bowl yet, or if it goes through this week. Where am I? How's it going, Rick? Could we see another case of recent form with course history with Hunky Tony this week? So Jacob is referring to, the Spieth example at Pebble, the Brooks example at Phoenix. Is Finau the example of someone who is playing poorly leading into the event, but with great course history? I would argue this is not nearly as elite history, Jacob, as we saw from Spieth, who had dominated at Pebble, with Brooks, who had won there twice. This is 2 runner-up finishes and a 15th, and 2 50th place finishes, and 2 missed cuts. To me, it's not nearly as compelling Could Finau play well here? I think he can, right? I bet him here last year. I think it was 35-1 because I thought a, kind of longer-ish, narrow course that rewards good drivers. That is what you want for Tony. So you're just kind of banking he gets back to his DNA. I don't think you're banking on like some version of elite course history, because I'm not sure that's what we're seeing right now, especially compared to those other guys. Hey, Rick, longtime listener. Love all that you do. Thank you, Woody. Can you go more in depth on what happened to Victor last week? It certainly stunned me how bad he played, for sure. So we can look at the stats on this. So Victor lost strokes off the tee and on approach last week. The last time that he did that was the 2020 PGA Championship. He did it the 2020 Memorial. He did it the 2020 Honda Classic. That's it. Those are the only 4 occurrences of that happening. If you want to play the bounce back game, struck it well at the Tour Championship the next week after. Oh no, sorry, I'm one. Struck it well at the Northern Trust the next week after the PGA Championship. I mean, I think it's an outlier, right? We have not seen in his young career this happen too often, and it doesn't happen too frequently. I thought he looked a little. I don't know. Victor's got that like bounce about him. And when things are going well, it's all smiles. Even when things aren't going well, it's all smiles. I thought he just looked a little off and maybe a little bit frustrated with his game. And statistically, that's what's showing up as well. I'm probably not going to read too much into this. 4 out of 60, 70 starts for him is what, is what we saw where he lost strokes off the tee and approach. I think he'll be just fine. There is a big payout figure this week. Is it a good time to use my top guys for one and done? Ives Xander in right now. Who else should you consider as a guaranteed top 10 finish? No one. No one in the world of golf is ever a top 10 guaranteed finish. However, Patrick Cantlay and Jon Rahm are trying to disprove that theory. I don't think it's guaranteed. And yes, you should probably be using your guys. The first place payout this week is 2.1 million. And between this and then in a couple weeks we have the Players Championship, there is a ton of money up for grabs, like in this 4 or 5 week period, whatever this is. I think that there's something interesting about Hideki. When he plays well on, he always plays well on harder courses. He has a couple of top 10s here. He is literally the hottest golfer on the planet right now. So last 20 rounds, raw strokes gained, nobody's been better than Hideki. Nobody. Not Hoagie, not Hoagie, right? That's the name I use. Raw stroke, he's been that good, and I don't think he ever gets credit for it. So I really like the way Hideki's trending this week, but I would not call anybody a guaranteed top 10. Okay, so here's the question about Niemann that I was kind of alluding to a little bit earlier, because he did show up on a lot of the models that I ran earlier in the week, as Dan is noting here. And you go and you look at some of his stats, and even when he doesn't play well, the stats are still mostly fine, right? Like the miscut at the RSM, he gained strokes off the tee, approach around the green. Then this is the blueprint, right? This is Joaquin Niemann. 3.5 strokes off the tee gain, 3.6 on approach at Farmers. Difficult golf course. That's only 3 rounds. Remember that. And then he plays well in Saudi Arabia. So we've got 2 really good starts, compelling cases to be made early in 2022. It's only 2 starts of 2022. I'm fairly optimistic about Joaquin. I want to see what his putting stats are. I wish we knew what he did in Saudi Arabia, because remember, he was one of the better putters on tour last year. And then he went through this stretch at the end of the year where he just punted, or at the end of the season, I should say. Or no, end of the year. And he punted all these strokes away putting. He gained at Torrey. I wish we knew what he did in Saudi Arabia, because I'd really love it if I knew he gained 2 strokes putting there. So yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. Excuse me, guys. In general, what finishing position do you think the top golfers need to produce to make value? I feel like it's top 5 is the only way. Yeah, that's Generally true. It also, I also think it kind of depends on what other guys around him do. That's kind of the way that I look at it more often is like, okay, if you have, these guys above $10,000, which for, this week it's Rom, it's Cantlay, it's Justin Thomas, it's Colin Morikawa, it's Dustin Johnson. Like, who of those guys is going to be the most valuable? And you can get away with Cantlay or Rom being like T6 if everybody else is like T18, right? That you can get away with that just because there's really just a lot of natural bills. This is not necessarily a true value game like you normally get for like an NBA lineup building process. So I kind of look at it as different tiers. But generally for the big boys, yeah, if you're not finishing in the top 5, you're probably not super thrilled with having paid that much for them. Barry asked the question about fading the entire 10K range, which is, oh boy, it's terrifying, right? The argument is the depth of guys that you could get. You could get Xander, Rory, Hideki. Maybe could you start with those guys? Could you get Cam Smith, who I think sportsbooks are trying to tell us something on this week? Could you start, Rory, Hideki, Cam Smith, and go from there? It's appealing. I worry about that, but I think there's a lot of viable options this week, and that's never been more viable. Oh, I did not realize Tiger was doing his news conference right now. Ian says, you're running up against the Tiger news conference. You should have delayed it until 4 p.m. Yeah, I probably should have. Mind helping me pick 3? I don't know what this is for, so this is kind of hard for me to answer, but it says list, Hoagie, Nah, answer, Coke Rack, Power. I don't know how different you want to be or if it's fantasy scoring or anything like that, but I guess in a vacuum, the 3 that I would go with are probably Power, Hoagie, answer, but I'm not confident in that. Which stat, if any, best links with a player's playoff winning chance, or is it just a lottery? Already had 3 playoff losses on my card this calendar year. Make it stop. Yeah, you're unlucky. Sorry. Hey, Rick, just wanted to mention a typo on the Paul Casey FanDuel price in your Golf Digest write-up. You got me excited about locking him into lineups. I will let the Golf Digest editors know. Thank you very much. Who is the most over-owned and under-owned golfer on the slate? All right, let's look at the projected ownership here. Let's start with over-owned, and I'll just sort by projected ownership to kind of make this a little bit easier on myself. Leishman. What's the argument for Leishman? You've got the you've got the Aussie narrative. You've got a couple of top 10s here. You also have a couple of missed cuts here. He's played fine, but there's a lot of guys in that price range that I think are interesting as well. The most under-owned, so we'll just kind of go back here. Most under-owned, I mean, it could be Brooks. Sorry, guys. It could be Brooks. I have him at 9.5%. So I don't know if you guys know this, and I meant to write this up at some point. Brooks goes as his approach play goes. So if you start going and looking at Brooks's best results or best approach weeks, it would be generally pretty correlated with his ball striking. And we saw that again last week. And I also, anecdotally saw him hit some shots that I have not seen him hit like that in some time. I mean, they were just these high, piercing, perfect ball flights. I mean, it was impressive. And now to go to another tough golf course where you are asked to beat out every single top 10 player in the field, that is, I think it could be a Brooks spot. Phil with the super chat. Thank you. Spieth outright at 45-1. We don't like him this week for some reason. I know you don't like how he sprays it. Yeah, I mean, listen, the path to Spieth winning this week is kind of short game and putting. There's going to be a lot of missed greens for everybody. If he can get up and down at kind of a magical rate, I get it. I just think that he could put himself in some really horrible positions around Riviera. He could. And I think it's a playing with fire kind of dangerous situation. I would only, if I couldn't play him in DFS. I would only, if I was going to have any exposure to Jordan Spieth, it would be via the outright ticket. That's the only place that I would that I would get there. Outright card for this week. Yeah, I kept it pretty small. I think 5. Let me pull this up really quickly. While I'm doing this, a reminder that I'll be at Riviera probably Thursday, definitely Thursday, maybe Friday as well. So if you're going to be there, give me a holler. It was nice meeting a lot of you guys over at Torrey. So let's see. Yeah. Okay. So I've got Victor, which I always bet 25 to 1. I bet Rory. So Rory and Victor are like the two shorties on the card. And then Sung Jae Im is at 43. Those are the only ones I bet. I'm saving 2 more spots. Those are the only 3 that I bet. I will probably end up getting to, and there'll be a little bit longer shots. I wouldn't mind like Adam Scott or even like Lonto, which is terrifying to say, but I'll probably just fill it out with 2 more guys like 60 and above and just call it a day. So this is always a common question from Joshua around guys playing on their home course. In this case, it is Francesco Molinari, who, has a house there and has been playing Riviera apparently for months and months and months. It's impossible to say, right? We have heard so many different golfers say, oh, when I got to my home course or this place that I'm familiar with, and I got there and there were all the infrastructure was there, the different tee boxes, the lines are different, all that stuff. It wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be. So I'm not putting too much stock in the old, this is my home course, just like I don't for anybody else. Who's been gaining steam for you since Monday? Okay. This is a good game to play. I think the answer to that is probably, I'm just looking at the list of names here. Joaquin Niemann would definitely be on the short list. We talked about him. Sung Jae would definitely be on the short list. Kind of talked about him. Sam Burns. I think it's a good spot for Sam Burns. And I know he's coming off 2 missed cuts, and the game hasn't looked as sharp this year, but I don't know how much I can say. What do we think about this? I had a chance to talk with Sam yesterday. I thought he was in good spirits. I thought he worked with, seemed like he had gotten good practice in. That's all I'll say. I don't know. I mean, listen, golf's hard. Golf's weird. Everybody thinks they get good practice in and all that stuff. So take it for what it's worth. Rick started one and done last week. First time playing it. Do you go with a horse like can't lay this week or save and go for Cam Smith Fitzpatrick? Thanks, dude. Also, first week playing PrizePicks. LFG. Yeah. So I have no problem with you burning somebody big here. Do I think it's ideal? No, because you have every single player in the top 10, but it's 2.1 million up top. So, and it's a smaller field, right? It's 120 or something. So I don't mind you burning somebody big here. JT and Colin are projected for the most DK points on your cheat sheet, despite Rahm and Cantlay being the class of the field. Can you explain why that is and how projected points are determined? Yeah, so I'll kind of lump this into the conversation with, and I'll show you the cheat sheet so you can see. Kind of lump this into the conversation around the projected ownership calculation as well. This is a multi-year, constantly being tweaked calculation that looks at a blended short and long-term view of golfers with fantasy points, right? There are obviously guys who outscore their expectations in fantasy points than they do in just kind of like the raw leaderboard. And birdie streaks are more valuable. Eagles are more valuable. So I don't have a better answer to you that wouldn't take 9 hours. That's just like, yeah, that's the calculation. Right. And it's super heavy on fantasy points because that's what we're trying to project here. And it likes the way that the two elite ball strikers in the field set up for Riviera is essentially what it comes down to. Do I think the Sheamus Power run is over? No, I don't think the Sheamus Power run is over. Continues to be an elite ball. Elite might be a strong word. Great ball striker, and he's a great putter. He had 3 bad rounds, and one of them was in the heart of battle. All good. It's a good spot for him too. It's not over. It's not over yet. Lower tier dart throw. Rye, Mito, Munoz, Han. I might put Mito in front of Rye, but the rest of that looks pretty good. Yeah, you could use DJ in a one and done, Robert. That's pretty good. How do you go about researching first round leaders? So there's a couple of different ways. You want volatile golfers that can go out and, gain a bunch of strokes over the course of a single round. You could go to something like the Holy Grail here, and you can just sort by round one, which I kind of think is interesting because there is definitely a different level of pressure on round one. And then I kind of look for guys that don't necessarily align with the true outright odds or their first round leader odds. So like Sergio Garcia, the third best round one golfer in this field since the start of 2008. And his last 4 opening rounds, 3 of them have been across the pond on the European Tour. He's gained 5 strokes at the Desert Classic. He gained 2.5 at the DP World Tour. He gained 5 at the Mayakoba event. That's what you want to see. Guys that can gain 4, 5, 6, 7 strokes in a single round. That's how you win kind of the first round leader. Some of these guys are a bit more consistent when they do it. I think Kuchar's one of them. Yeah, Kuchar's just a constant gainer, but never gains more than 4 strokes in a single round, right? You want these really volatile, Keegan's the perfect example, right? Keegan might lose you 3 or 4 strokes, but he can gain you 5, 5, 7, 4. That's what I generally look for. But let's be real. First round leaders are kind of crapshooty. Greetings, Rick. I sincerely hope your afternoon is sparkled with whimsy and delight that escape so many. Kindly describe the traits that would allow Luke List to attain another triumph. Well, George, thank you for that. The path to Luke List winning this golf tournament is pretty similar to the path of Luke List winning at Torrey Pines, which is his ability to hit the ball far, his ability to play out of the fairway more often than his peers, or at least gain strokes off the tee more often than his peers, and the second shot. Now, there is a case to be made that the California POA, which often has you missing 5 footers more frequently across the board, is good for the bad putters. Luke List always misses 5 footers. Now his peers are also missing them too more often. It starts to level the playing field a little bit. So there is a fairly strong case to be made that Luke List could attain another triumph. Thank you. Rick, why are you fading your one and done pick in DFS on the first cut? I know you're struggling, but there has to be a method to your madness. So what I think you're referring to here, no Dak for mini, is that cheat sheet that we put out for the first cut, which, yeah. So this is, again, it's a fairly nuanced situation. Bubba Watson, we're talking about Bubba Watson. To me, Bubba Watson is not someone that I want to end up playing in DFS because I think he's going to be fairly popular. However, I'm okay with using him in non-value games like a one and done situation. I also am not 1,000,000% sold on Bubba. I'm 75% sold that he's going to have a good week this week. And I just think that any game in which he is not a kind of value type situation or doesn't have a price attached to his name, I think is a better way to roll him out. Hi, Rick. I'm new to golf, but it seems like this is a tough course with a lot of volatility. Does it make sense to play stars and scrubs, given that most more expensive players would make the cut? It is a tough course. There is a decent bit of volatility. It's not as volatile as like Torrey Pines, for example, but yeah, there are some guys with really, really good course history around here. Does it make sense to play stars and scrubs, given that more expensive players would miss the cut? Kind of goes against the volatility argument, doesn't it? The volatility argument would be if this is volatile, stars will miss the cut more frequently than they should. So maybe you shouldn't go with more expensive players. I don't think there's a right answer, to be honest. I'm just playing devil's advocate here a little bit. I would say, I would prefer a more balanced build over stars and scrubs this week. I just think there's so much great golf being played by the guys from like 9,900 to 8,300, something like that, that I would probably just prefer that way. Does it ever make sense to bet anyone better than 25-1 pre-tournament or wait to live bet cutoff number? I mean, obviously it does make sense. The top of the board that we're seeing is always so crazy, right? Like Rahm being 5, 6, 7, 8-1 is just, it's absurd, right? And you can't really bet that long term with any level of respect for yourself, unless you're just trying to have someone who, if you're doing it seriously. If you're not, just bet whatever you want. But there are obvious values in some situations, like when Rory McIlroy touches 20-1 at CJ Cup, like you have to bet that. Like you're getting Rory at 20-1. He goes out, wins the golf tournament. Happened at Wells Fargo too, I believe. So like there are definitely times to be betting guys under 25-1, but the larger point is that it's fairly insane what the short numbers are. I've answered a lot. There's a lot of questions about Cam Young. Great off the tee player, all that good stuff. You can go back and listen to what I had to say about that. Here is Lincoln. Lincoln's a good guy with the super chat here. He says, "Hey Rick, 3 quick things. Thanks for all you do. Number 1, thank you, Lincoln. 2, I think Rahm makes a statement this week against the stacked field. And 3, last but not least, hug Oliver for me." Yeah, thank you, Lincoln. Much appreciated. Very, very sweet of you. Rahm is so darn good. So I wrote this. I don't know if I wrote this up in my newsletter this week or last week, but it is he is gaining 3 strokes per round at something like a 50% clip. It is an outrageous amount of ceiling and floor at the same time. Patrick Cantlay's done it next. He's done it like 36% of the time. And then the next closest guy's done it like 23% of the time. It is, it's insane what he's up to. It's insane. So the wins are coming. Thanks again, Lincoln. Oh, okay. Hold on a second. Let me see if she wants to come on. So there's a question here about producer Mina, who, quote, nailed it last week with Sexy Scott. I think she was going for Adam Scott, but we'll give her credit. Okay, let's bring her on. Hold on. I've got to get my headphones on, or I'm not going to be able to hear what she has to say here. All right, here we go.
Hello.
You were not trying to get the Scotty Scheffler last week.
Yeah. Sexy Scott is Scotty Scheffler. Yeah. So this week, I'm going to go with the other Scott, which is Adam Scott.
You're going to go for what do you think the chances are of back-to-back Scotts winning?
I don't know. If anybody can say what are the chances, it's you.
I think you should have said, I think Scott wins this week, which would have given you Scotty, Adam Scott, or any of the guys from Scotland you could have turned in on Sunday night and taken credit for.
I feel confident enough in Adam Scott. Fun fact.
So just to be clear, it is Adam Scott.
It's Adam Scott, the Australian, like beige colored.
Beige on beige is generally the path.
And 2 years ago today was his most recent win on the PGA Tour.
So you're in this for like the anniversary thing.
I'm big on anniversaries, as you know, and I'm big on Australians, as you know. So course history, excellent. So that's my pick. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. There you have it. Straight from the horse's mouth. Zach Jeffer says, did you trounce Mayo out at Summerlin this week? Yeah, but we both played like garbage, right? It was so windy and hard. I mean, it was firm fast. The stimp was 11.7, and it was 30-mile-an-hour winds with 40-mile-an-hour gusts, 50-mile. It was outright. I was hitting an 8-iron, either 100 yards or 200 yards. I mean, it was outrageously difficult out there. We both got smoked. It was good to see, Pat. Hypothetically, if all the players in the field show up with their current ceiling, who do you have winning? Oh, see, that's interesting because I actually think Rom's ceiling is very high, but it's also like his floor is so close to his ceiling, which is why he's constantly up there, but like we never see him run away with it. Like a true ceiling guy is like Rory's. Like Rory's ceiling is win by multiple shots. Morikawa's ceiling is like win by multiple shots. Even Patrick Cantlay's ceiling. Oh my God. So I would say if everybody shows up with their ceiling, like Cantlay or Morikawa, probably. I think that's just like Cantlay could gain 10 strokes putting and be great everywhere. Morikawa might hit everything to 2 feet. That's the ceiling stuff. Leverage plays in each range. I'm surprised it took us this long to get into it. So I don't think the leverage play in the 10K is not Rahm and Cantlay, right? So it seems like everyone or most people are taking one of them and then someone else in the 9K. Whether it's the low 9K or whatever, or people are starting in the 9K. I've never seen it this bunched before, between 13 and 16% for basically 10 guys. So the only pivot in that kind of range there appears to be not Cantlay and Rahm, or Brooks would be like the only other guy, right? Something like that. Then you move down. Sam Burns is probably your pivot. Sergio is probably your pivot, or actually at this point, if you're okay with the stomach bug, Matt Fitzpatrick is probably your pivot. Hoagie, the fact that whoa, my mouse went nuts there. The fact that Luke List is like 2.5 times the projected ownership of Tom Hoagie is a joke, friends. Hoagie is scorching right now. Do you think Matty Fitzpatty will tee it up tomorrow? I don't know. I have no idea. I started watching Euphoria with my girlfriend, so now she's interested in getting more into golf. Is Euphoria about golf? We're watching Succession right now. Succession right now. Don't spoil it. We're like, I shouldn't have said, do not spoil it in the chat. We'll block you forever. I don't know anything about Euphoria, but as far as introducing people into golf, so if she's serious about like getting better, there are some really good female like YouTube instructors, like Golf with Amy or something like that. Hold on, Armina's gonna text me. Yeah, Golf with Amy, and there's somebody else that she watches, I think. No, Golf with Amy is probably the way to go. Jim asks a very good question. After a tournament, do you ever go back and review stats for a golfer you may have been too high on, or may not have been too high on, to see if you overlooked or undervalued something? Yeah, all the time. So I kind of have a running kind of like back testing thing. And yeah, sometimes there's a blind spot. Sometimes there's a whiff. Sometimes it's like, this had to be an outlier. It's, and really what I like to do is like okay. So Phil Mickelson's PGA Championship is the perfect example of this, where I was very high on Phil the weeks leading up to the PGA Championship because he was doing things with approach that he hadn't done in a long time. And then he won the PGA Championship. And that was still obviously a huge shock to me. Like that was like, well, I didn't see that coming, even though I was very high on him. And then you look at the 6 months after and you're like, wow, that was the outlier. So like I think you have to like reassess all the time, which is kind of what I'm doing. The absolute best one and done pick for this week. What does my gut say? The absolute best one and done pick this week is Dustin Johnson. Confidence level on Peters for DFS this week, 6.9 out of 7. No, out of 10. Jeez, that would have been bad. Heading to Vegas for the first weekend of March Madness. Do you agree everyone should experience it at least once? March Madness or Vegas? I guess in both cases, yes. Go to Circa. You will not be disappointed. Look at this. Rick coming to Vegas next week. Everybody loves Vegas. Looking to walk around and casually play some craps. Where should I go? Bellagio, Caesars. Go to the Wynn. It's better. I play on a site where the cheapest players get 1.25 times points. Who would be good players to target? Should I aim for mid-range like Peters list, or should I go for Gim, Clark, and Hahn? I don't, not as familiar with these. Clark and Gim, I think, are fine. Yeah, I'm definitely better than Pat, which is not a knock on Pat. I play year round. He probably hasn't swung a golf club in 4 months, but we both lost to the wind in a big way. We must have dumped a dozen golf balls out there each. It was outrageous. I do not like the Reed stuff. No, so I I'm trying to get through as many of these questions as possible, but like the Patrick Reed stuff is so fascinating because of. Yes, I know he's a 9-time winner, 10-time winner on the PGA Tour, and he doesn't have to have good form, but look at this. This is horrendous. He is not a good ball striker. His short game hasn't even been as good. This is just like whiff after whiff after whiff after whiff for Patrick Reed. I don't see much to be optimistic about here. I mean, even in Saudi Arabia, he finished his T38. Should have been like the 9th best player in that field. Come on. I am way behind on questions, so I apologize. At least a lot of these I've answered. A lot of stars and scrubs questions or deep dive. I prefer the deep dive. Okay, good question about Lanto. Really quickly here. Yeah, so I casually mentioned him as someone that I might round out my betting card with. And I worry very much about his short game. And if he hits one bad chip or pitch, I worry that it's gone. However, he has been nearly perfect in 2022. And when I say perfect, I mean gaining across the board in every category for all of his tournaments. So the only time he's lost in any category at any tournament was off the tee, less than a quarter of a stroke at Torrey. Otherwise, it's all green. This is like pitching a perfect game, right? So that's very exciting to me. I continue to enjoy that. Adam Scott folded like a bad lawn chair last week on 16. Are you off him at all this week? No, I would never let one bad hole or shot or anything ruin my perception on a golfer. Hey, Rick, your boy Sia had a great take. Riviera on Monday's show. Amazing. Can we get his ownership compared to the rest of the 9K range? Yeah, he falls into that category of like the line's 15%. Might be a couple percentage points over. It might be under. There might be late steam for some guys, but it's just jam-packed there. Okay, good. I'm glad I've answered a lot of these, which is very, very good because I felt bad that I was 30 minutes behind. Oh, lots of questions about Lanto. Yeah, baby. Let's go. Favorite golfer under 7,400, asks Sean. I would probably go with, Lanto 72. That's fine. Martin Laird. I don't love it. I'm okay with it. And the other one that I would probably throw in there is like Carlos Ortiz. That's probably the short list. Pulled up the stream and Rick is talking about Victor. What a shock. They ask about him. What am I supposed to do? Hey, Rick, love all the content. Would it be better to pivot off Scott this week? Homa, Fitz, or Gooch? Okay. So one of those guys, if you pivot off of Scott, I'm pretty sure Gooch is the guy. Love the way Gooch is playing. Yeah, some steam for DJ one and done. All good with that. No problem there. Who are the best guys on these greens? Okay. So let me just go get this situated here. So this will go back to the start of 2018. Let me make sure I have POA clicked. I do. And we can go by putting. Best golfer, Patrick Rogers. Oh boy. P. Raj, man, if he could like hit a fairway, he'd be splendid. So he gains over 0.8 of a stroke per round with the putter on POA, has gained in 5 in a row, and basically like 10 of his last, maybe 11 of his last 12. And actually, I think it's better here. So last year he gained 7 strokes putting here. Year before he gained 1.2. And year before that he gained 4. So he's never lost at the Riv. Wyndham Clark, Adam Hadwin, Troy Merritt, Matt McNeely, Patrick Reed, David Lipsky, Cam Smith round out kind of the rest of that group. Did I miss the Marty Laird portion of today's show? No, it was mostly me going, Marty Laird? I don't know. That was basically the entirety of the Marty Laird conversation. I don't love is kind of where I'm at on him. Terry just says new to golf DFS. Thank you for all your info. Thank you. A lot of just random conversation, which is good for everybody, but bad for me as I'm trying to sort through this. Thoughts on Scotty Runback? I've thought a lot about this week. I'm torn, quite frankly. So the good news about Scotty is that I don't think the wind impacts the win impacts him all that much. I think that he is one of the most even keel, never too high, never too low golfers. I know he's been at Riviera, I think since Monday, grinding, looking good, all that stuff. So I don't worry about that. It's not like it's a long trip or anything, as he stayed back to do his winter obligations. The only issue I have with Scotty Scheffler is him being overly aggressive with the driver and putting himself in bad spots. Otherwise, I'm fine. If he can just play from the fairway or close by, I think he has a really good week because of kind of the rest of his all-around game. And obviously he's playing really, really well. So that's the only concern. If the guy hits fairways or doesn't blow it, 15, 20 yards right off the drive, he's going to be great. That's my only hesitation with him. Rick, love the website. Looking at shots gained, including Euro Tour info, Thomas Pieters is 3rd in the field. Can we weigh the Euro Tour data that strong to consider Pieters as a long shot? So let me just make sure we're on the same page here. So this is the raw. What do you want to do? 24 rounds. That would be in Thomas Pieters' like wheelhouse, wouldn't it? So last 24 rounds, players in this field, I have Thomas Pieters as, do I even see him? Thomas Pieters. Someone point him out to me. Am I missing Thomas Pieters? I have to be. I have to be. Oh, sorry. I have a filter on. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Sorry. Apologies. Here we go. Okay. Woof. We are all on the same page now, Michael. My bad. Yes. Okay. So Thomas Pieters getting 2.2 strokes per round over the course of his last 24. Now, if we weigh this, so he goes, that's second to Patrick Cantlay. If we go to the weighted version and we do just players in this field, so it went from 2.22. Let this recalculate here for a second. And it was last 24 rounds. I get Pieters as, much worse, like 0.6. So that's how I weight that. So even those wins from Pieters, so I have him below Kuchar, Fitzpatrick, Knox, Ryan Palmer. Yeah, that's when you do the weighted stuff, he's much lower on the list. I hope that helps. I hope we're on the same page. That was confusing. I had a filter on. My bad. I think we're in overtime right now, but that's okay. Let's just do it. Let's just keep going. If you have to use someone big for one and done, DJ. Mike says, following up to PrizePicks, use code Rick and it was still 100% up to $100. Thank you, Mike. Much appreciated. This is kind of like a similar question that, okay, so if you're looking at ownership across the board, it's going to be different. Will anyone tell you what's good and what's bad? No, because there's not an overall source of like, hey, what was your R squared for this week? What was your R squared for this week? What was your R squared for this week? Right? Nobody wants to give that up, and especially for fluid ownerships. I will tell you, I'm quite happy with the results of my projected ownership over the last 3 or 4 years. I think it's really good. I think it's really fair. It's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be weeks that are weird. There's always going to be players that are going to be weird. And especially in a time where we get a lot of late withdrawals, all that stuff. So do what you think, right? Like you don't have to blindly follow any source. Just do what you think is right? We're all making educated guesses. Just do what you think is right. Going to round 3, first time here. Any advice for walking the course? Yes. Here's the definitive answer about watching golf at Riviera. There are 2 spots to post up. Behind the 10th green, elite spot, because you will see guys play that hole 900 different ways. And if you are behind the 10th green, you might get hit with a golf ball, so pay attention. Then you're also able to see them tee off on 11, like right in front of you. Secondly, the hillside on number 2 will fill up quickly, but it is a great spot to watch golf from, and the sun beats on you very nicely there. Otherwise, if you're going to walk the course, walk it backwards. Have a great time. I'm so glad I've answered a lot of these. Who will you be targeting on Jock Market tonight? The Wyndham Clarks of the world. I'd be interested to see. Okay, like Matt Fitzpatrick is pretty risk free on Jock Market because if he WDs before the event, they'll just refund you his shares. So that would probably be pretty interesting for people who might not want to get involved. Now, if he if he starts and then withdraws, I don't know what Jock Market's going to do, but I don't know. Hey Rick, any truth to a model I saw that had Cantlay ranked as 60th in the field on fast POA greens? I'd have to see the data set. You should be generally wary of when someone tells you these are fast, slow, medium, whatever. That information has not been officially available from the PGA Tour until recently, like the last 6 months, where now, and I hope to have this on the website soon, there is a stimp reading that is given via the PGA Tour feed for basically every hole for every day. So that will be making its appearance on the RickRunGood.com soon. But I would be very wary of stuff like that. The data it's kind of like wind. The data could be very wonky there. What are the pictures and posters in the background? Okay, so those are from a company called Minimalist Golf Prints. They are really cool, very much my style designs of famous golf venues. So I've got Kiowa, Kapalua, Augusta National. That's actually one of 2 different Augusta National models. I have Mayakoba, and then there's one over here that you can't see. It's Chambers Bay. That's my second set of them. There is actually a link in the description because they candidly, they hooked me up with those and I appreciate it more than anything. So there's a link in the description for, I think it's 10% off if you want to buy them. They're very, very, very sharp. Who has the best chance of winning in the 6K range? Oh my God. Okay, let's do that. Probably. Oh, great question. Stellar question. I'm vamping while I think about this. Probably. Boy. That's a really great question because I would prefer to someone who has like winning ability. Maybe JT Poston. You know, he's played well enough around here. If he got hot with the putter, I wouldn't mind that. Maybe it is Martin Laird. I don't know. I'll go with Poston. Yes, these fairways are very hard to hit. Martini. Second hardest to hit fairways on tour last year. Third hardest greens to hit last year. Oh, get a couple invites to South Florida. Okay. Could you do a deep dive on Kevin Na? Okay, yeah, let's do the deep dive on Kevin Na. Let's do the old Kevin Na. Vegas guy plays out of Southern Highlands. Let's do Kevin Na. Oh, we're 6 minutes over time. This is great. All right, let's keep going. So, I actually think this is quite encouraging. The off the tee numbers for Kevin Na are not great. However, they are better in the very short term. Century Tournament champion, Sony Open, great. The approach play, it's been a lot better for Kevin Na, right? Look at this stretch of golf from the WGC Workday to the PGA Championship, where he basically lost strokes on approach every single week. Now he's gained 5, 2, 6, 3, all in his last 6 measured starts. The around the green play always going to be splendid. The putter always good. Dustin, you're talking me into Kevin Na. I'm just going to bet Kevin Na, I think. Don't let me forget. Somebody just don't let me forget that. Kevin Na. Hit the lick button. Oof, that would be an interesting button to have. Deep dive on Doc Redman. Game seems to be trending in the right direction. I will say that, yes, it is trending slowly. It has been slowly trending in the right direction. And I've always said about Doc, and he's told me this himself, the best courses for him are kind of longer, more narrow driving courses, which I think you could argue this would be a pretty good spot for. And he's usually up for the challenge for hard courses. I am still approaching with caution. However, I agree. We are rounding the corner on Doc. What do you mean when you say weighted? So there is again, fancy schmancy calculation that takes into account strength of field amongst other factors for the week to assign weights to strokes gained. So, for example, it is much more impressive if you gain 5 strokes at the US Open with all the best players in the world at a very difficult golf course than gaining 5 strokes in Bermuda. No offense to Bermuda. The field is not as strong. It's way more impressive to do one of those things than the other. So that is a calculation that tries to level the playing field a little bit. Will Zalatoris is now the best player on tour without a win. Any shot there will ever be a listeners league contest on DraftKings in the future? Probably not. I'll be real honest with you here, Mark. They kind of dusted me on this. I reached out to them in like 2 years ago, and they, first of all, ran me around to 9 different people about setting one of these up. And then when I finally got to the right person, it was like almost an interrogation. I'm like, I'm asking for like 1,000-person listener league. I don't think that's that outrageous, right? And quite frankly, they pay me exactly $0 to spend a lot of time and energy to promote golf on DraftKings. And I was a little bit bothered by it. So no, there's probably no shot there will be a listeners league on DraftKings in the future. That's kind of what happened. Oh my God, Dylan. You're sick. How interesting, difficult, fun do you think it would be to have a golf course with varying green speeds, 1 being the slowest, 18 being the fastest? How sick are you? So I guess going in order is better than like if you had 18 randomly different speeds of greens. It would be very difficult. It would not be that interesting and it would not be that fun. I guess interesting it would be. Fun, not so much. Okay, I'm finally caught up, I think. I'm not as worried about Fitzpatrick, but I can take on a lot of risk. I don't really care. So I'm not that worried about Fitzpatrick. All right. I think that'll do it. So a little bit of extra time for this live chat. Much appreciate everybody hopping on. Remember, a couple of items for tonight. 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. That's your Jock Market Power Hour. 7 p.m. Eastern. That's a Twitter space. Come on and come chat with me. Holler at me. Yeah, that'll be fun. And then I'll be at Riv tomorrow. So come say what's up. Also, go pet your dog. All right, later.